Alright, now that we've waited a few days, we're going to go ahead and put Plastidip on our weapon. So we have our weapon here. You can see that the crossguard and the pommel are now fully embellished. They have stayed on the weapon pretty good, so that way we know that the Plastidip will not be able to take it off. You see here that I'm wearing gloves. That is because I don't want any of this Plastidip stuff in my hands. You might even want to consider wearing a painter's mask. That way you won't breathe in this bad smell. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the Plastidip like this, the black can, and we're going to go ahead and put 4 coats of it onto our weapon with a sponge brush. These are cheap, you can throw them away easily. And what you might want to do is you might even want to consider putting 5 coats onto the areas where there's be more stress. So around this crossguard area, you might want to put down a 5th coat to strengthen the weapon. This part is pretty self-explanatory, so I won't go into too much details. But basically, the great thing I love about Plastidip is that it is very strong and it dries really quick. Okay, so by the time you finish painting the entire weapon, most likely the first coat is already dried and ready to be painted again. How you know that it's ready? When you touch the Plastidip, if it doesn't get on your finger, that means you're ready for a 2nd coat or a 3rd coat, okay? So let's go ahead and get started on that. Alright, let's get started. So you can see here that this Plastidip starts off being very liquidy. Eventually it will harden and it will become the consistency that we want. But we have to work fast because, like I said, this Plastidip dries really, really quick. The cool thing about Plastidip is that it automatically evens itself out. So even if your strokes aren't very even, it would actually look okay because the Plastidip will redistribute itself to as best as it can. So if you have uneven bumps on your weapons, it's perfectly fine because the Plastidip will find the right consistency. Okay, so I have the first coat now on my crossguard. So like I said, it dries so quick that by the time I finish painting my pommel, there's a good chance that my crossguard would have already dried, and then I can go ahead and start painting a 2nd layer right away. The trick is try not to get it all over yourself. Alright, so this is pretty much just the first coat. That part is done, so like I said, by the time I'm done with the pommel, most likely the crossguard have already dried. So see, I'm touching it, it's not getting on my finger. That means in a couple minutes here, maybe like 1 or 2 more minutes, I can go ahead and put on my 2nd coat and my 3rd coat, okay? So like I said, this part is pretty self-explanatory, so we'll see you in a bit, and this weapon hopefully should be all coated up, okay? Alright, I am on my final layer of the Plastidip. By now the Plastidip is already starting to redistribute itself and level everything out. At this point, it's very important to make sure that your details do not just get glossed over. So what I'm doing right now is I'm making very deliberate strokes with my brush to, in a way, carve away the excess Plastidip to kind of make sure that my detail is still around. You see how in this one here, it's starting to kind of get glossed over to become this little glob of plastic. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to take my brush and sort of brush it repeatedly, carving out the detail, so that way when it does eventually dry, my eagle will still remain here instead of just the round glob of plastic. It is also very important to do the same with the back here, so that when I do apply my final layer of it, my little starburst effect isn't getting lost. Okay, you need to make sure that you're making very deliberate brush strokes to take off the excess Plastidip, so that they do not fill in the gaps, because you want your detail to still remain. That's kind of the whole point of the fun foam, is we want to make sure that the special little bumps get outlined instead of getting covered up. Okay. Yeah, like so. Alright, well, now that our weapon is completely coated with Plastidip, we want to go ahead and leave it to dry for, I would say, about 24 hours. That way, then when we start painting it, it will be completely even, and everything will be completely ready. So don't worry if it's a little heavy right now. It will feel a little bit heavy until the water completely evaporate from your weapon. Okay, so the next part is painting your weapon. I'm going to leave that part to you, but I use acrylic paint. They have to be water-based. I've thought about how I'm going to paint my weapon, so this part will be kind of a bronze wooden color, so with the sphere at the end. The metal strip will be a silvery kind of metal color, and so is detail. So I'll leave that part up to you. And what we're going to be seeing next is what you do after the painting is finished, okay?